This is George Dionne of the Rock is George podcast, and this is a KNAC.com exclusive interview with vocalist John Corabi of the hard rock act, the Dead Daisies. If I knew absolutely nothing about the Dead Daisies, how would you describe the band's music to me?
Fun. Yeah, pretty much high energy, fun. That's I left for a little bit and I came back, and that was one of the things that David Lowy said. When I put this band together, I did it to have some fun. I did it for everybody in the band to have fun and the fans. And he said, I think we kind of got away from that for a minute. So I want to bring the fun back. So.
Well, you're starting to bring the fun back. You have a new album coming out on September 6th called Light 'Em Up. A couple of singles out right now. This is your first studio album back with the group since Burn It Down in 2018. How does it feel to be back?
It's I get this question a lot, obviously, because I left. But I kind of left over personal reasons. And to be quite honest with you, the whole time that I was gone, I was kind of in contact with everybody the whole time. I was talking to the managers quite a bit. I was speaking with all of the members of the band, past and present. And, so, I mean, even at one point when they had Glenn Hughes, I kind of filled in. Glenn was sick. They were supposed to rehearse. They were going to rehearse for like 2 weeks. And Glenn got sick. I don't know if he had COVID or what his deal was, but he couldn't make the rehearsals. So I went up to New York and I rehearsed with them for the first week just to kind of help them blow the dust off of everything and, get ready. Then once Glenn was feeling better, then he came in. I went home and he came in and they finished up and then they went on tour. So it wasn't, I didn't leave under bad circumstances. I was always in contact with him, sharing jokes and joke memes and, all the stuff. And so when they told me Glenn was leaving and David asked me if I wanted to come back, I was like, yeah, okay, awesome. So I just stepped right back into the situation again. You know what I mean?
Kind of a weird period for a lot of bands. That was during COVID for sure, the time that you were gone. So,
Yeah.
everybody didn't know what was going on. Nobody knew what they wanted to do. Nobody knew what they should do.
Yeah, it was weird. Like when that first, I was out actually doing some solo shows. And I remember my agent calling me and he said, well, go home. All of the tour dates that you had have just called and canceled because of this COVID thing. And I got to be honest with you, I might have been a little cocky about it or whatever. I'm like, they'll figure it out in a couple weeks. We'll be fine. You know what I mean? And then a couple weeks turned into a couple months. Then it was like a year. Then it was 2 years. And I got to be honest with you, and I think I'm not the only one, but I was pretty panicked, so it was interesting. But, I got reacquainted with my family, my kids, my wife, my dogs. And my wife went from, saying right in the beginning of me leaving the band, she went from saying, man, I really miss you. You're gone all the time, to after 3 years of COVID, she was like, don't you have something to do? Like, don't you have a tour to do? Or, so it was all good. Timing couldn't have been perfect, more perfect.
Well, let's talk about the new album. You guys recorded the album in the studio in Nashville. I assume that's close to where you live with Marty Fredrickson. Had you guys always gone into a studio to do your recordings? I mean, a lot of guys doing it at home now.
Yeah, you know what, for us, like one of the things that's really, I got to be honest with you, one of the things that's great about the Daisies is I don't think I've ever been in a band that actually puts music together as quickly as we do. But I really kind of attribute it to the fact that we all do get in the studio together And we just kind of sit in a circle and with Marty, and we just hammer these riffs and ideas out, and then everybody starts adding to the soup. You know what I mean? Um, and if you go back and you look at, not to say that we're like this, but we were kind of raised this way. But if you look at the bands like Led Zeppelin in their, early days, the Beatles and just all these great bands would literally sit in a room together and jam and throw their ideas in and help develop the song. So for us, that's how we do everything. We like being in the room together. We kind of feed off of each other's energy, and it just works for us.
I haven't had a chance to hear the whole album yet, but I have heard your promotional single so far. The album's title track, Light 'Em Up, full of that energy and fun that you say the band is about. Why don't you tell me a little bit more about that song?
Well, when we were actually writing it, we were kind of going through ideas. Oddly enough, Marty had worked with, he had done some stuff with Buck Cherry just prior to working with us. And I guess apparently they were talking, and Marty said, "Oh yeah, I'm getting ready to do this Dead Daisies album." And Stevie D he had this song. We wound up not using the whole song, but we just liked the riff that was in the beginning of the song. So Marty he was just playing us a bunch of stuff that he had worked on for other bands and country artists and all. And we heard the Stevie D song or the riff, and we're like, "Oh, that's cool." So we wound up talking to Stevie, asked him if we could use the riff, and he was like, "Yeah, cool." But then we sat in the room and we literally built this song. And it's just, obviously you've heard it. It's pretty high energy. Light 'em up is a term or a phrase, obviously, you could use for just about anything. People that are drag racing, they spin the tires and are like, light them up. You know what I mean? Or, you see a military movie, and the guys are there waiting with their machine guns and the sergeant yells, light them up, so there's that. But we actually stand on the side of the stage each night and we kind of fist bump each other and get each other pumped up. And we kind of use the same thing about, all right, let's go up there and light them up. You know what I mean? Get the audience going. So we took this high energy riff, we developed it into it's relentless from front to back, and then we just called it Light 'Em Up, and it's basically about living on the road and just not, I hate to use the word conquering, but kicking the shit out of an audience each night. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I think conquering's a little better than kicking the shit.
Yeah. All right, conquering.
So keeping with the road theme, you have a second single, I'm Gonna Ride. This is about your enthusiasm as a Harley driver, right?
Yeah, actually I have a couple of bikes. I have 2010 Harley. It's called a Rocker C. It's got a little bit, it was more of like a production kind of little chopper thing that they did for a bit. I think they've actually kind of developed it now. It's called the Breakout, like whatever. But I've had one of those, and then just recently, I hate riding my wife on my two-wheeler. So, I just went out and bought a full dresser trike that she feels a lot more comfortable riding on. Do you know what I mean? So I get the trike and the bike, and I go out riding with my buddies quite a bit. I'll take the two-wheeler, and then when my wife and I go out with some other, couples, we'll take the trike. But it's just a cool way to, like, I don't know if you ride it all, but you kind of have to be super alert when you're riding a bike. So I like getting on the bike when, you know, uh, if, if I'm just a little stressed about something, because it just helps me forget what it was that I'm angry about for a little bit. So I'll just take a ride, no destination in mind, just go and then, come back and then it's just kind of a stress reliever for me. So we, in homage to bikers and bikes and just, the world in general, we just said, you know what, let's write a song about riding a bike, just taking a ride and clearing your head.
Is Doug also a motorcyclist?
Yes. Doug actually belongs to, he actually, I think it's called the Hollywood Riders, but it's just a bunch of dudes in LA that have, but they're hardcore. Like they have like these old shovel heads and pan heads, and all these guys are gear, monkeys. And but they've got these. You'll see them if you look at the video for "I'm Gonna Ride." There's one of the guys is talking in the beginning, and they show a bunch of the bikes, and they're just really like these old 60s and 70s choppers and shovel heads, pan heads, and they paint them. But there's a club. Gilby Clark's a part of it. Doug, a bunch of other musicians, EJ Curse, but even actors like Josh Brolin. They're all part of this club, and so they'll go out and and do like lost weekends and shit where they leave on Friday and they drive out to the desert and then come back on Sunday and just crazy shit like that. So I'm trying to do that here in Nashville, but I've only got one member, and that's me.
You mentioned the Light 'em Up UK tour, which starts September 6th in Brighton.
Yep.
It's been a little while since you guys have been to the UK.
I think they were there with Glenn, but I don't know when. I don't know if that was, 21, 22, 23. I couldn't tell you. I haven't been there with the Daisies since, God, 2018. Yeah, so it's been a while, and I'm really looking forward to a nice cold pint of Guinness and some of that awesome bar food they have.
Well, it seems that UK audiences are a little more receptive to your style of music than the US is. I mean, obviously you have your fans in the US, but as far as, promotion and appreciation, it seems like overseas is the way to go.
Yeah, pretty, you know what? It's funny, pretty much anywhere but the United States, which is, it's a shame, because back in the day, even the English bands that came over here in the 60s and 70s, it was like if you wanted to amount to anything, you had to conquer the United States first. But, again, I'm still trying to figure out this whole streaming thing. There are really minimal amount of magazines. There's no MTV anymore. And it's funny. I was just listening. My wife and I were out driving, and it's one of the biggest pet peeves I have about, pardon my French, fucking radio. I've literally had a station here in Nashville, because I have, on that trike I have, it's got GPS and radio. I can plug my phone in and, listen to my library of music. But I was just kind of listening to radio the last couple of days. And I was just sitting there and I was telling my wife, I go, I have literally heard the same 15 fucking songs for the last 4 or 5 days on this station. And it's like, for fuck's sake, somebody changed the tape. Do you know what I mean? And it's sad to me because, you go overseas And, yeah, they have programming, but it's still it's different than what they do here. You have Clear Channel, no disrespect, but Clear Channel sends out a playlist to like 200 plus stations. They play the same songs everywhere in the country. And I remember when this first really started happening, I was in Texas doing an interview, and one of the DJs, I can't remember who it was or what station, but the guy was like, how the hell does somebody in Atlanta, which is where the main office of Clear Channel is, how does somebody in Atlanta know what the fuck the people in, Austin, Texas want to hear? He goes, this is ZZ Topland. You know what I mean? And it's like Skinnerd and just all these. And it's just like we're getting these playlists and we can't even play local music. You know what I mean? So it's really kind of, I just wish somebody would allow or these radio stations would allow their DJs to do a local show. Like when I grew up in Philadelphia, every Friday and Saturday night, they had a local show and they would play local bands from that area. And, there's no support, and I'm sorry, this is a can you opened, but it's like, I just sit there now and I look at some of these new young bands that are coming up that don't have a history or a name, and it's like they try to get booked in clubs, and the best they're going to do is maybe a door deal. I'll pay you for the 20 or 100 tickets or whatever, but how are they supposed to survive? They're getting no support from anybody except themselves, promoting themselves. And it's really kind of a sad state of affairs, if you ask me. I just, America's got to get their head out of their ass when it comes to the arts.
Satellite radio, no better than terrestrial radio today. You get the same loop as well.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying. It's not even, I can't remember the name of the station, but I think it's like an internet radio station, and it's the same fucking songs, the same 15 or 20 songs. And, I was laughing because the song that kind of set me off, and I loved the tune, but I heard Little Pink Houses by John Mellencamp. Literally in 3 days, I think I heard it like 6 times, 7 times. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Move on. Play one of his other cuts. Play some Bob Seger. Play some Grand Funk Railroad. You've got a billion songs to choose from. Why has it got to be the same 15? I don't know. Just drives me crazy.
So back to the tour. Once you conquer UK, you guys are heading off to Europe, starting in the Netherlands in November. Are there any particular tour stops through the European trek you're looking forward to?
You know what? I love going to all these places for dumb reasons. You know what I mean? It's weird. Like, I remember last year we had a couple days off in, I think it was Netherlands. And the hotel that we stayed at, I saw this thing on the menu. It was like pumpkin soup or something stupid. And I go, I don't think I've ever had that before. Let me try it. So I tried it, and it was hilarious. Every time I walked into the restaurant, the waitress would just bring a bowl of soup because she knew I was going to order it. So there's like little weird things about, you go to Belgium and it's like everybody thinks chocolate, but it's like their beer is awesome. You go to Italy, it's like, oh my God, you got to try the wine and the cheese. So there's all these different things that I love, but I love going to new places, and I love going to old places and seeing old friends. And, there's certain things, like I said, certain things on the menu that you go, when in Russia, you got to have the vodka. You know what I mean? Or Finland, you got to have the vodka. So I just love traveling and seeing, my little my little personal, you know, high spots for each country.
The Daisies just finished up a little tour through the United States. I assume this is kind of your return to the stage with them. How did that all go?
Well, actually, I came back last year. I started in August, I believe. So we did a whole tour last year. We did do the States. We didn't do the UK, but we went to Japan and Europe. You know, I was a little nervous having left the band, and then you get somebody as legendary as Glenn Hughes in there, you know, the voice of rock. So I was a little nervous about, you know, here I go. I'm going back in. I'm replacing somebody. But it was great. The responses were positive. And I was a little overwhelmed because pretty much across the board, everybody's like, I'm so glad you're back. You're the voice that we kind of grew up with on the Dead Daisies. So we're happy that you're back and doing what you should rightfully be doing. So the response was awesome.
Now, I understand that David Lowy is a pilot. Is he training to fly you guys around the world for the next set of tour dates?
Trust me, he does not have to train. That guy could fly a 747 if he need. Like, him and Bruce Dickinson are very good friends. They fly. David was one of those. I mean, he's been flying forever, but he even used to do. I don't know what it's called. I don't know what the sport's called, but you know where they do the things and the planes do, like the racing around the poles and the stunt stuff. Yeah, he's done all that. But he's licensed. He could literally fly a 747 if he chose to. If he tapped out tomorrow and said, you know what, I just want to be a pilot, he could fly a 747. He's that qualified. So he has flown us many, many times in the past. And I have no issues about flying with him anywhere we go.
So in addition to the new album, Light 'Em Up, coming out in September, the Daisies recently released a collection of B-sides, I guess, or songs that were overshadowed by the singles, called Resurrected Volume 1 and Volume 2. Is this a group of songs that you guys re-recorded? Is this more like a compilation you put together?
I think it's just a compilation, to be quite honest with you. I don't even know what you're talking about.
We'll skip that one.
Yeah. One of the things that we did do when we recorded this album, just for future reference, we started writing, and there's a little bit of a story here, but we started writing and recording at Marty's studio here in Nashville. It's called Sienna Sound. So we started writing, recording there, and then all of us had a bucket list place that we wanted to go to. It was Fame Studios in Muscle Shoals, which is like the legendary studio of the Swampers, and like the Allman Brothers, Dwayne Allman, all got their start there. So we went down there, we did some writing and recording as well. And as it turned out, we had so much fun in Muscle Shoals, just taking in the vibe and everything, that we wound up, while we were there, writing and recording during the day for Light 'Em Up. And then we did a blues record like at night. So we actually recorded 2 records this year. Obviously, the new record's coming out on September 6th, and the blues record is mixed, mastered. It sounds amazing. But we literally just did 10 old standard blues tunes and reworked them our way. Kind of like, I know some blues purists may not appreciate, um, as like Led Zeppelin in the beginning of their career when they were doing, I shook you, you shook me, and how many more times, and just all these old blues songs that they did. A lot of people were scratching their heads like, what the fuck are they doing? They're ruining these tunes. But we did all these old blues songs, and we just said, you know what, we're going to do them our way. And we kind of, in a roundabout way, we were like, hey, what would Zeppelin do? And so we did these, I think there's 10 songs, but, had a little fun with it. And so we put it in the can. It's ready to go, and it'll probably be out next year. But, we were kind of looking at, when I say what would Zeppelin do, if you listen to a song like When the Levee Breaks, was recorded in 1929 by, I can't remember the other writer, but a Memphis Minnie. And the melody and the lyrics are the same, but if you listen to the music that Zeppelin did, it's completely different than the original. So we tried to do something in that vein. You know what I mean? So we had a lot of fun doing this record, man. I'm stoked. I can't wait for everybody to hear all this music we did.
In your downtime, do you have time to work on solo music? I know you hit us with a couple of singles in 21 and 22.
Yeah, but again, I got to be honest with you. I'm literally technically challenged. It was funny during COVID. I just finally took some classes online to figure out how to record myself. And then, I'm still super slow at it, but I was able to record those 2 songs at my house. And I have a bunch of other stuff that I started. The problem of it is I was sitting there going, I don't have the machine behind me that like the Dead Daisies do, or a record company. So I did the songs, I did videos, I put them on YouTube, I told everybody that they're there. And I'm just sitting there going, how do you let people know that your songs are actually out? It was crazy. Like even the streaming thing, like I don't get it. So I just said, you know what, I'm going to hold off for a minute here until I figure this whole this newfangled voodoo, figure it out, and then, proceed. But it was weird. I was trying to figure out, like, all right, I even paid a PR company like all this crazy money. All right, like, let's get it out there. And it was just, it didn't do anything. So I'm like, let me figure this out. But I have a bunch of stuff, and I do like going in. Sorry, I'm rambling. My wife and I, during COVID, we kind of figured out how to trim the fat, if you will. My wife cuts hair, so we sold her hair salon, and we built a little hair salon in our house. And I have a bedroom here. I took all the furniture out, got rid of it, and I just put a little home studio in there. So my wife and I get up in the morning, we have coffee, we go work out. She goes left, I go right, and then we meet at 5:30 for dinner. So it's kind of the Corabi household here. So.
Well, those are all the questions I have for you today, John. The new Dead Daisies album is Light 'Em Up. Comes out September 6th. You guys are self-releasing it. I look forward to listening to the rest of the album. I love the first 2 singles and wish you guys the best of luck with it.
Thank you, buddy.